A dealer just slid an extra chip off your winning stack. You didn't catch it. Neither did anyone else at your table. That's exactly what they were counting on. Former casino poker dealers are finally speaking up, and what they're revealing could transform everything about how you approach the game. Hidden tactics you've never considered. Psychological manipulation that happens right in front of your eyes. Rake structures that silently devastate your bankroll faster than bad beats ever could. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to watch for the next time you sit down at any casino poker table. Behind every friendly smile and smooth shuffle, there's a system, a carefully engineered system designed to extract maximum profit from every single hand you play. In this video, you'll uncover insider revelations from people who spent years dealing thousands of hands from the other side of the felt. Secrets about dealer behaviors you can actually exploit. Rate calculations most players never do. Psychological pressure tactics designed to keep you playing longer than you should. And the hidden costs that silently bleed your win rate without you ever noticing. Whether you're grinding cash games at your local card room every week or planning your first Vegas poker trip, these insights could be the difference between walking away profitable and wondering where all your money disappeared. So, here's my question for you right off the bat. What stakes do you usually play? 1, 2, 25, maybe higher? Drop it in the comments. I want to see what games you're all playing out there. Now, let's dive in and expose what the poker rooms absolutely don't want you to know. Trick number 1, the rake math nobody teaches you. Let's start with something that's been quietly destroying bankrolls for decades. Every poker player knows casinos take rake, but what most don't understand is exactly how devastating that number becomes over time. Former dealers reveal that recreational players drastically underestimate their true hourly costs at the table. Here's how it actually works. You sit down at a 1-to-no-limit game. The casino advertises 5% rake with a $5 maximum. Sounds totally reasonable, right? Here's what former dealers know that you don't. At a typical table dealing 30 hands per hour, roughly $150 total is getting rad from that table every single hour with 9 players seated. That's approximately $16 to $17 disappearing from each player every hour before you even think about whether you're winning or losing actual hands. A dealer named Vincent worked at a major Las Vegas property for 11 years. He kept meticulous notes in a journal. His calculations showed that the average 1-2 player at his casino was paying between $14 and $19 per hour in rake, depending on how loose they played. That's on top of trying to beat 8 other opponents at the table. What shocked Vincent most during his entire career wasn't the bad beats or the big pots. It was how few players ever actually did this basic math. They'd buy in for $200, play a comfortable 4-hour session, and walk away with $60 thinking they only lost $140. But when you factor in the $68 they contributed to rake during that session, they actually surrendered over $200 in total value from their stack. They just never saw it leave because the dealer was scooping it incrementally, chip by chip, hand after hand after hand. Former dealers explain there's a deliberate reason casinos don't advertise the total hourly cost anywhere on their website or poker room boards. If casual players knew they were paying $17 to $20 per hour just to occupy a seat before even attempting to win pots, many would seriously reconsider whether poker at those stakes was actually worth their time and money. Quick quiz for you. If you play poker even somewhat regularly, have you ever once calculated your actual hourly rate cost? Most people watching this have never done it. Type your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how many of you have run these numbers before right now. Here's where it gets significantly worse. The bad beat jackpot deception. Many poker rooms advertise absolutely massive bad beat jackpots. $60,000, H100,000, sometimes even higher numbers sounds exciting, right? Free money just for getting unlucky with a monster hand wrong. Completely wrong. Former dealers reveal these jackpots are funded entirely by an additional rake extracted from every single qualifying pot you play at most casinos. This is an extra dollar per hand once any pot reaches $20. So on top of your regular 5% base rake, you're hemorrhaging another dollar for this bad beat promotion. Every single hand that gets action. A former dealer named Elena worked at a medium-sized casino outside Reno with an extremely popular bad beat promotion. She kept detailed spreadsheets for her personal interest over a 7-month stretch. The casino collected approximately $270,000 in bad beat rake during that period. The jackpot hit exactly twice, once for $42,000 and once for $58,000. That's a total of $100,000 paid back to players. Where did the other $170,000 go? The casino pocketed it. Pure profit from a promotion that players genuinely believed was giving them extra value. But here's the really insidious part that Elena observed. The bad beat jackpot creates constant excitement and table talk. Someone at table 7 hit it last month. You were so heartbreakingly close 3 weeks ago when your aces full got cracked by quads, but the losing hand didn't qualify. The psychological hook keeps players coming back session after session and happily paying that extra dollar per hand, even though the actual mathematics prove they'll never recoup what they're contributing over their poker lifetime. Elena watched the same core group of regulars pay into bad beat jackpots for literally years at her casino, contributing thousands upon thousands of dollars total, never hitting one themselves. Yet, they continued playing because the possibility felt tangible and real right there on the digital display. Before we move to trick number 2, I need to ask, have you ever calculated how much you've personally paid into bad beat jackpots versus what you've won? Be brutally honest in the comments. This might be eye-opening for a lot of you. Trick number 2, dealer placement tells you didn't know existed. This one requires careful observation, but it can provide valuable timing information in specific situations that sharp players exploit constantly. Former dealers explain that when dealing community cards, many dealers unconsciously develop patterns in how they place certain cards on the felt. Some dealers always position the first flop card in an exact spot every single time. Some pause fractionally longer when dealing specific card ranks they mentally consider significant, like aces or picture cards, because these create action. One former dealer named Andre admitted he had an unconscious habit for 6 years that observant players eventually identified and exploited. Whenever he dealt an ace on the flop, he would place it down with slightly more precision than normal cards. Why? Because aces generate action in betting, and he wanted to make absolutely certain it landed perfectly clean so nobody could claim it was accidentally exposed or misplaced. Players who noticed this subtle pattern could sometimes identify when an ace was coming a split second before they consciously registered what the card actually was. It gave them just barely enough time to prepare their physical reaction in advance. Now, let me be crystal clear about this. This doesn't help you in the actual hand. The card is completely random regardless of how it's placed. But in live poker, controlling your immediate physical reactions is absolutely crucial to your success. That extra half-second of mental preparation can be the critical difference between looking genuinely shocked when an ace smashes into your opponent's perceived range versus maintaining a perfectly neutral expression that gives away nothing. Here's what you should actively watch for during every session. Does your dealer place face cards with more care or attention than number cards? Does a dealer's natural rhythm visibly change when dealing high cards versus low cards? Do they unconsciously smile or maintain extra focus when dealing action flops versus dead boards? These micro behaviors exist everywhere because dealers are human beings with patterns. They want action and excitement at their tables because action directly leads to bigger tips at the end of their shift. A former dealer named Simone revealed something fascinating during her time at a major East Coast property. Dealers mentally root for action hands because it creates energy, and energy leads to generous tips. When she dealt a flop with obvious potential for a massive pot, she was genuinely engaged and leaning in slightly. When she dealt a completely dry board that would obviously check through the turn, she mentally checked out and went on autopilot. Players who understood this dynamic could actually read her visible engagement level as a genuine signal about whether the community cards were likely to create significant action or not. Question for you. Have you ever noticed consistent patterns in how your regular dealers handle or place cards? Let me know in the comments what specific things you've observed. Trick number 3. The tipping pressure system nobody talks about. This one's controversial, but former dealers from multiple properties insist it's absolutely real and happens constantly. Casinos have deliberately created a compensation culture where dealers depend on tips for the vast majority of their actual income. Base hourly pay for poker dealers is often barely minimum wage, sometimes even less in certain jurisdictions. The real money, the money that pays their rent and feeds their families, comes entirely from player tips. Former dealers reveal this creates a powerful dynamic where dealers have a direct financial incentive to maximize both hand volume and pot sizes at their specific tables. Here's exactly how it manifests at the table. A former dealer named Gregory worked at a major casino in Atlantic City for 9 years. He openly admits that dealers would subtly rush players who were taking longer than usual to make decisions, not to keep the game procedurally fair, but specifically to deal more total hands per hour. More hands equals more opportunities for someone to win a pot and tip. More pots equals more tips equals paying the rent. Dealers would also be noticeably more patient, friendly, and accommodated with players who tip consistently well, and measurably more curt or borderline hostile with players who never tipped or tipped poorly. Gregory explains this isn't necessarily conscious malicious behavior. It's basic human nature, combined with financial survival, but it creates an environment where players feel constant subtle pressure to tip even when they're actively losing money, just to avoid dealer hostility and maintain a comfortable atmosphere at their table. The actual mathematics are absolutely brutal when you calculate it. If you're tipping $1 for every pot you win, and you take down 7 pots during a 4-hour session, that's $7 in tips. Doesn't initially sound like much, but when you combine that with the rake you're already paying, your real cost of play is substantially higher than you consciously calculated. Some former dealers report that the top regulars at their tables, the ones who tip $5 or even $10 on big pots every single session, would occasionally get subtle preferential assistance. Nothing illegal like exposing cards or signaling hands, but dealers might deal slightly slower when that generous player was deep in the tank facing a critical decision. They might be more accommodating about properly showing cards that accidentally flashed during the deal. They might even consciously control the pace of the game to give that generous tipper a few extra seconds to think, without anyone calling clock. One former dealer who spent years dealing high-stakes games admitted something striking when certain players who consistently tipped $100 or more per session were in genuinely tough spots facing major decisions. He would deliberately slow down his shuffle or take slightly longer cutting the deck, giving them precious extra seconds to think without making it obvious enough for other players to call clock. Is this completely fair to everyone at the table? Absolutely not. Does it happen regularly? Former dealers say yes without question. The system directly incentivizes exactly this behavior. Here's the practical advice from multiple experienced dealers. Tip appropriately for the level of service you receive, but never feel obligated to tip when you're actively losing if it's genuinely affecting your bankroll management. $1 when you win a significant pot is perfectly standard, but always remember this is adding directly to your total hourly costs at the table. Trick number 4, the weekend warrior trap. Former dealers reveal that poker rooms have figured out the exact time windows when players are statistically most likely to make costly mistakes, and they deliberately structure their entire operations to maximize profit during these specific windows. Friday and Saturday nights from 7 p.m. to midnight are absolute prime time. Players are walking in after dinner and drinks. Many are coming from bars. They're in a social mood. They're not remotely as focused as they should be. Former dealers report that rake collection is measurably highest during these exact windows, not because pots are bigger, but because there are dramatically more total pots being played. Players are looser, calling wider, and the overall action moves faster because people are impatient. A former floor supervisor named Dominic revealed something casinos don't advertise. His property tracked hourly rake totals across all tables for years. Friday nights consistently brought in 35 to 45% more rake per table than Tuesday afternoons, even when the posted stakes were identical. Why? Because players were making substantially worse decisions, playing far too many hands, and building unnecessarily large pots based on emotion instead of logic. The casino absolutely knows this pattern. That's precisely why they staff significantly more dealers on weekend night shifts. That's why they run special promotions specifically targeting these time windows. Want maximum players and seats when those players are least mentally sharp. Dominic also revealed something most players never consider. The casino adjusts dealer performance metrics based on time of day. Dealers working Friday night shifts are expected to deal notably more hands per hour because players are more impatient and action-oriented. The dealers who can maintain a legitimately fast pace without errors get rewarded with the premium shifts. This creates an environment where dealers are incentivized to keep the game moving extremely quickly, which directly leads to more mistakes from players who are already in a significantly suboptimal mental state. The strategy here is blindingly simple, but most recreational players completely ignore it. If you're genuinely serious about winning money, play during off-peak hours. Tuesday through Thursday afternoons and late-night hours have tighter and more serious games. Yes, but the players at those tables are also more focused and making fewer emotional mistakes. The rake percentage is identical whether you play Friday night or Wednesday afternoon, but your realistic expected win rate can be dramatically different based purely on the player pool and your own mental clarity. Here's an honest question. When do you typically play your poker sessions? Are you a Friday, Saturday night warrior, or a Tuesday afternoon grinder? Comment below and let's see how many people are unknowingly playing during the most expensive possible time windows. Trick number 5, the absent player scheme. This one's technically legal, but feels morally wrong once you fully understand it. Former dealers reveal that many poker rooms have policies where they continue charging identical rake from tables even when multiple seats are vacant with players on break. Here's the exact scenario. You're playing at a standard 9-handed table. 3 players simultaneously get up to take bathroom or food breaks. Now, you're playing effectively 6-handed. In the vast majority of poker rooms, the rake structure doesn't adjust downward at all. You're still being charged the exact same percentage with the identical maximum cap. Even though there are 33% fewer players contributing to pots, former dealer Nathan explains that poker rooms make a surprisingly substantial amount of money from exactly this practice. During any given hour at his casino, they were charging full 9-handed rake at tables that were averaging 6 or 7 actual players rather than the full 9 or 10 the structure was designed for. Multiply this across 25 or 30 tables running simultaneously, and the casino is collecting tens of thousands of dollars in additional rake that players don't even realize they're paying because they're not doing the mental math in real time. The mathematics are completely straightforward. If 3 regular players are missing and the remaining 6 players are playing the same number of hands at the same frequency, each of the 6 remaining is now paying a proportionally higher share of the total table rake. You went from paying 1/10 of the rake to paying 1/16. That's a 50% increase in your hourly cost that happened invisibly. Smart players track this vigilantly. If your table drops to 5 or 6 players and stays that way, ask the floor to reduce the rake cap or move you to a fuller table. Some poker rooms will actually reduce the maximum rake cap when tables become shorthanded, but only if players specifically request it. Most casual recreational players never even know this option exists. Nathan admitted something striking. In his 4 years dealing at 2 different properties, he personally saw players request a rake reduction for shorthanded play, maybe 15 times total. Yet shorthanded play, where tables drop to 6 or fewer players, happened multiple times during literally every single shift. The casino counted completely on player ignorance of this option. Question for you. Have you ever requested a rake reduction or table move when your game went shorthanded? I bet real money most people watching this didn't even know it was a possibility. Trick number 6, the tournament fee illusion. Former dealers and floor supervisors reveal that tournament fees at casinos are structured to extract far more total money from players than the advertised numbers ever suggest. Most players see a tournament listed as $100 plus $10 and understand the $10 is the house fee. But what they don't consciously realize is that $10 fee is just the visible beginning. Former tournament director Melissa spent 7 years running major tournament series at multiple properties. She explains that the true total cost of tournament entry includes multiple hidden components most players never factor into their calculations. First, there's the advertised entry fee that $10 on a $100 buy-in. But then there are dealer add-ons and tips. Many tournaments explicitly request or create heavy social pressure that players tip dealers' percentage of their winnings at the end. This is typically 2 to 4% of your actual cashing amount. Then there's the staff appreciation that gets aggressively pushed at final tables. Win a tournament for $8,000, and there's intense social pressure to tip dealers and floor staff anywhere from $200 to $400. Melissa reveals this is absolutely by design. The entire tournament structure is deliberately set up to create a culture where winners are expected to tip generously and publicly. If you don't, you're marked as cheap by the staff and sometimes even other players. If you do tip appropriately, your actual tournament return on investment just dropped another 2 to 5 full percentage points. But here's the really sneaky part Melissa observed. Tournament structures at many casinos are deliberately designed to be fast enough that the casino can run multiple separate tournaments per day from the exact same player pool. Shorter tournaments mean more entry fees collected per day from the same people. Melissa openly admits that when casinos compare tournament structures, they don't optimize for the best possible player experience. They optimize mathematically for the maximum number of tournaments they can squeeze into a 24-hour period while still attracting enough entries to make it worthwhile. A standard deeper stack tournament with a player-friendly structure might run 8 to 10 hours from start to finish. But casinos actively prefer 4 to 6 hour turbo structures because they can run 2 complete tournaments in the same time window, collecting double the entry fees from the same player base. The dealers know this. The floor staff absolutely knows this. But players keep registering because they see an $8,000 prize pool displayed and think about winning, not about the fact that they're playing a structure specifically designed to create maximum variance rather than reward skill. Here's insider advice from multiple former tournament staff members. If you're serious about tournament poker and want your money to go furthest, skip the daily casino tournaments with fast structures and high fee percentages. Wait for major circuit events that come through your region twice a year. Those events have substantially better structures and lower rate percentages because they're competing for players regionally rather than just locally. Your tournament dollars go dramatically further. What's your experience with casino tournaments? Do you play the daily grind or wait for bigger series events? Let me know in the comments. Trick number 7, dealer behavior reading. This is something sharp players exploit constantly, but casual players never notice. Former dealers explain that you can gain legitimate information from carefully observing how dealers behave in certain situations. One former dealer named Isabel worked at a mid-sized West Coast casino. She noticed after a few years that she had unconscious patterns in her shuffle speed that observant players were definitely noticing. When the table was playing loose and generating big pots with lots of tips, she'd shuffle faster to keep the action rolling. When the table went card and everyone was folding pre-flop repeatedly, she'd shuffle notably slower because she wasn't as motivated. Sharp players picked up on this. When Isabel's shuffle speed increased, they knew the table dynamic was loose and profitable. When it slowed down, they knew everyone had tightened up. This didn't tell them what cards were coming, but it gave them extremely valuable information about the current table dynamic and player psychology. Another tell Isabel admitted was her chip handling. When a pot was building and she was mentally calculating rake, if it was going to be a maximum rake pot, she'd unconsciously lean forward slightly in anticipation. Players noticed this and used it to gauge pot size without looking at the chips themselves, which allowed them to watch opponents instead. Former dealers say, watch for these behavioral patterns. Does your dealer become more animated during action hands? Do they shuffle faster when the table is loose? Do they handle chips differently on big pots? These aren't illegal tells. They're human psychology, and you can use them. Trick number 8, the comp system trap. This is a final trick, and former casino hosts say players fall for it more consistently than anything else. Poker room comps and loyalty programs are designed to make you think you're getting genuine value back, when in reality you're spending far more to earn those comps than they're actually worth. Former poker room manager Jonathan ran the Players Club at a major Vegas property for 6 years. He explains that poker comps are calculated to give players back roughly 20 to 30% of their theoretical hourly loss based on stakes played. The casino tracks your play, estimates how much you should be losing per hour based on the stakes and your playing frequency, and awards comps accordingly. Here's the trap that players never see. To earn a $25 comp for a buffet, you might need to play 4 hours of 1-to-no limit. In those 4 hours, you paid approximately $70 in rake based on our earlier calculations. You also likely lost money to other players, unless you're a winning player. So, you spent $70 in rake plus whatever you lost at the table to earn a $25 buffet comp. The mathematics absolutely doesn't work in your favor, but psychologically, it feels like you got something for free. Jonathan reveals that the most profitable players for the poker room aren't the ones losing the most money at the table. They're the ones playing long hours, paying massive rake, and who are motivated by the comp system to play. Even when they're exhausted or tilted, these players will extend their sessions by an hour or two to hit the next comp tier, paying additional rake the entire time for a marginal reward increase. One player Jonathan tracked over a full year played over 900 hours of 1-to-no limit. This player was actually a slight winner at the table, showing a small profit from his play against opponents. But when Jonathan calculated the total value of comps earned versus total rake paid, the player had paid over $11,000 in rake to earn roughly $3,000 in comp value. Net result, the player thought he had a winning year, but actually lost $8,000 when you factor in the rake. The advice from former hosts is completely unanimous. Never extend your playing session to chase comps. Never move up in stakes to earn comp points faster. Play the poker game you want to play at the stakes you should play. And treat any comps you earn as a minor bonus, not as a primary reason to play. So, let's bring it all home. If you're playing casino poker, remember this. Your biggest opponent isn't the player across from you. It's the structure you're playing within. Rake accumulates silently. Dealer behaviors create subtle influences. Tournament fees extract more than advertised. And comp programs are designed to keep you playing longer, not reward you fairly. Every former dealer and casino employee we spoke with said exactly the same thing. The smartest poker players aren't just skilled at the game. They understand the business model working against them. They minimize rake exposure by playing higher stakes where the cap matters more. They play during off-peak hours when they're mentally sharpest. They skip expensive tournaments with poor structures. And they never chase comps at the cost of additional rake. Which of these 8 tricks surprised you the most? Tell me in the comments. And if this opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the scenes at poker tables, hit that like button. Subscribe for more insider casino strategies. And share this with your poker friends who need to hear this before their next session. This content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Gambling should always be done responsibly. If you feel gambling is affecting your life negatively, contact your local problem gambling helpline for confidential support. The casino has built-in advantages, unless you understand the game behind the game. Stay sharp, play smart, and good luck out there.